In today's video, I want to talk to you guys about a popular drug combo that often goes south, and it goes south fast. A lot of people who smoke cannabis in their everyday lives think that if they're trying a new substance like, say, LSD for the first time, that if they take a few tokes of weed during their come-up, it's going to help relax them and ease them into the experience. Unfortunately, more often than not, the opposite happens, and instead, the weed catapults them into a terrifying nightmare of a trip. I personally have experience having a nightmare of a trip from smoking weed during the come-up, and this is going to be quite the terror tale, actually. Seems most of my terror tales of bad acid trips involve mixing substances. You'd think I would have learned my lesson, but nope. Apparently, I'm very hard-headed, and not in the sense that it means I can take a lot of substances. Hard-headed in the sense that I'm just a fucking numbskull. As always, this is a story from my past, so don't do anything that you hear me talk about in this video. I don't promote the use of illegal or legal substances, but if you are going to take a drug like, let's say, LSD, make sure that you always test your tabs before consuming it. There are a lot of imposter substances going around that dealers disguise as acid, but they're actually harmful drugs. I recently put out a video called Testing LSD, so if you want more information on how to test your tabs to make sure they're safe, then follow the link and check out that video there. So this story takes place about a year and a half ago, and I was on a camping trip with my girlfriend. I was the only one who was going to be tripping. I had a very important life decision to make, and of course, I thought I would consult with my personal gods, which at the time were the acid gods, and I thought it would give me some new insight into my problem and, well, help me just see things from a new perspective and come to a new conclusion. I only intended to consume about 100 micrograms of LSD, but what I didn't take into consideration was that I rolled for myself a joint that was probably 3 to 4 times larger than my average joint. And I should tell you guys that I have a very low tolerance to weed. It really doesn't take much to get me high. I didn't realize that combining that much cannabis with what I thought was a low dose of LSD was going to create an exceedingly intense experience. I didn't realize that the two drugs were going to potentiate each other. I remember being in the tent with my girlfriend, and I remember as the acid was starting to come on, I was having very intense closed-eye hallucinations. And I don't even want to call them like closed-eyed visuals. Like, they were full delirious hallucinations. I was, in my mind, experiencing an alternate reality than what was actually going on. In my mind, me and my girlfriend were having this full-blown conversation. And during this conversation, she was a slut. I couldn't separate what I was imagining from what was really happening. And I started to imagine her being just this terrible person, and I was just getting really hurt by her, when in reality I think all that was going on was she was just trying to get me to calm down because I was freaking out, because I was having some kind of weird delirious ego death type experience. I remember starting to just completely lose touch with reality and lose touch with who she was. I completely forgot that she was my girlfriend. I completely forgot everything about her. I didn't know what her name was. I had no memories of her. All that I knew was I was trapped alone in this tent with this person. She was in a bad mood, and she wasn't happy that I was waking her up, so she was being very hostile towards me. And her hostility translated during my trip into her being like a bad guy. Like I was in some kind of a really negative, like life-threatening situation, and I had to, under any circumstance, get away from her. So I remember going to the zipper and to go outside, and she's trying to stop me. She's grabbing my arm, and she's like, "Adam, what are you doing? Stay in the tent with me. Like, don't go outside." And I remember looking at her and being like, no, I just need to pee. I need to pee. But meanwhile, in my head, I'm thinking, "Okay, Adam, you don't know who this person is. She's obviously kidnapped you. You need to lie to her and tell her that you're going to pee, but really what you're going to do is run." And the more she was trying to stop me from getting out of the tent, the more scared I was getting, because she knew that I was really freaking out, so she just didn't want me to leave, because I guess she anticipated that my behavior was going to be exceedingly erratic. And I remember just grabbing the zipper and looking at her and just being like, "Listen, if you don't let me go, I'm going to run. I will run. I'm running. That's it. I'm running." Now, we were at a campground, a provincial park campground, and they don't really have like any lights. Like when you leave your tent, if you don't have a flashlight, it's pitch black, and the visuals were coming on pretty intense. I remember I was just completely blind. It was like someone blindfolded me and I was just running in pitch black darkness. I'm running through the woods now. I remember all of a sudden, like, my vision starts to kick in a little bit. But all I can really do is I've got enough vision to dodge the trees. Like, I'm not even running through the campground. I full out just ran into the forest. I kept getting these weird visualizations of what I perceived to be rapists in the woods. It was like I'd look and I'd see a tree, and then there would be like a figure would like dart out, look at me, and then dart back behind the tree. And it was happening a lot. Like, the woods was filled with these evil rapists. I don't know why they were rapists, but that is where my mind was going at the time. I thought that, like, I was on some kind of a crazy prison planet and everywhere around me was a rapist. Like, none of this makes sense. I was so delirious. As I'm running through the woods, I'm starting to remember that, hey, I'm not alone. There's someone out here with me. And I'm starting to get some flashbacks and some images of my girlfriend. And I remember that my girlfriend was out here. But at this point, I couldn't remember that I had left her. I convinced myself that I needed to find her. But at the same time, I remembered running into a car. And I think because I remember just like smacking into a car, I started to convince myself that I had a car accident. And the next thing I know, I'm back in the nightmare trip. If you guys have seen my video, I have a video out called Nightmare Trip. And during this trip, I talk about feeling as though I was dead and I was looking for my body. It was like deja vu. I was pulled right back into that trip. And I thought that I was, again, some kind of a spirit or something, and I had to find my body. And I was getting these flashback images of a car accident that I had when I was younger. When I was about 18, I drove right into a tree, and it's actually a miracle that I'm alive. But I was having these flashbacks of that event as if I actually did die when I hit that tree, and I was convincing myself that my whole life since hitting that tree has just been a dream, and nothing's been real. This drug was showing me that I need to figure out a way to get out of this reoccurring dream and just accept that I died like 10 years ago. It was quite terrifying because when you're in that state and you're so suggestible even to your own crazy notions, you can convince yourself of some pretty wild things. I was ready to accept that I died 10 years ago and my entire life was just a complete fallacy up to that point. Luckily, I saw people in the distance. I saw a fire, and behind them was a car. And as I'm running through the woods, I remember thinking, that's it, that's my car. And I thought I was running towards my car accident, and I thought that as soon as I joined with my dead body that was clearly going to be slumped over the steering wheel and full of blood, that once I joined with that body and saw with my own spirit eyes that I had actually died 10 years ago, then, I'll ascend into the light and I'll go on to whatever the next dimension is. Keep in mind that I'm running towards another person's campground. Like, these are people I don't know. All that I remember is popping out of the woods and, I scared the shit out of them. They were, holding their hearts. It was these two guys drinking beers. And they're just like, oh my God. And I'm like, hey. It was like I just snapped right out of my trance of believing that I was finding my dead body slumped over a steering wheel. And now I'm back into find my girlfriend mode. And I'm back in the trance earlier where I thought that she was cheating on me. I'm thinking, oh my God, here's the guys. These are the two guys that my girlfriend is sleeping with. Or she's sleeping with one of them. One of these guys is hiding her, and I have to figure out which one is hiding her. Think of what this looks like from their perspective. All of a sudden, this lunatic-looking guy just leaps out of the woods and enters their campground. Like, that's not something you see every day when you go camping with your buddy. I proceeded to just, stop, and I'm catching my breath, and they're like, oh my God, we thought you were a deer or something. And I was like, oh, no, sorry, I was just, I was lost in the woods. I have no idea where I am right now. And they're just, looking at me like, you okay, buddy? Is everything all right here? Can we help you with something? And I just blurted out, I'm tripping hard right now. I'm just I'm really tripping out. I think I took too much psychedelics. And then they just kind of laughed and oh, okay, that makes sense. Then the next thing that comes out of my mouth is, have you seen Jasmine? I'm looking at them with these eyes I know you're hiding her from me. I targeted this one guy in particular. There was a bigger one and a shorter one. I was targeting the shorter guy. And he's like, Jasmine? No, I don't know who you're talking about. I was like, oh, okay, well, I've lost my girlfriend and I can't find her. So I was just running through the woods looking for her. And they're just like, oh, is she on psychedelics too? I didn't tell them exactly what I was on. I think they said, are you on mushrooms? And I just said yes, just to make it simple. So they're like, oh, is she on mushrooms too? And I'm like, no, she's sober. I can't find her. And I don't know where she went. She disappeared. And they're like, oh, that sucks. And I was like, yeah, do you think you guys could help me find her? And they're like, yeah, I guess so. And I was like, well, maybe you could just help me walk back to my campground because I have no idea where I am in this campsite. I don't have a flashlight, and yeah, I don't know where anything is. I had left my phone back in the tent, so I had nothing on me. They're being really nice. They're being super chill and super down. And one of the guys cracks open a beer and he hands it to me. And he's like, here, dude, you look like you need a beer. Just try to calm down. It's okay. We're going to help you out. We'll help you find your girlfriend. And I was just like, oh, okay. Thank you. I was thanking them like a lot. I was like, thank you guys. Like, I really appreciate this. I know you don't know who I am. Just like, thanks. And I remember asking them, does it look like I'm really tripping out? And they're like, no, you don't really look like you're tripping that hard. So they grab a couple beers and they're like, we're going to take a beer with us for the road. They were obviously drinking all night. They were probably pretty drunk or buzzed. I can't remember. And of course, we run into park security. Now, one of the rules of this park is you are not allowed to do acid. No, that's not it. You're not allowed to walk around the campground with open alcohol. You can have open alcohol at your campsite, but you can't walk around with it. So I remember this female like park ranger comes over to us and she's like, you guys know like you're not allowed to walk around with alcohol, right? And meanwhile, I hadn't actually drank the beer they handed me. I was just holding it. It was full to the top. And as we were walking, they took 2 beers each with them. When they had finished their drinks, I offered to hold their empty bottles for them. So here I am with 2 empty bottles and 1 full drink, and they've just got 1 bottle. So the park ranger is like laser eye targeting me. And I'm just like, oh no, I didn't know you couldn't. And I was like, I actually haven't drank anything. And she's like, oh, why do you have so many empty bottles? And I was like, oh, I was holding it for them. Like, oh, I'm such a rat. I'm ratting them out now. They're like, and she looked so confused. But I was thinking in my head, I was still very delirious at this point. I was thinking, oh, thank goodness she's here. For some reason, because she was a figure of authority, I thought she came to help me. And I was convincing myself that these 2 guys who were being very nice and helping me, like they didn't have to go to their way to help me. I scared the shit out of them. I was thinking that they were the kidnappers now and they were the bad guys. And then she took all our bottles away. And I remember being so thankful when she took our bottles away because I was thinking for some reason that the beer bottles were their weapons. And when she took their beer bottles away, I was like, oh, their weapons are gone. They can't really hurt me anymore. And then she charges us. She wrote each of us a ticket for $100 for walking around with open alcohol. They were furious. The 2 guys were like, they were ratting me out. They're like, this guy came to our tent. He said that he was having a bad trip. He said that he was really tripping out hard. And we're just trying to help him find his girlfriend. And now you're giving us a ticket. And she turns to me. She's like, is this true? I'm like, yeah, I'm holding their alcohol. This is all theirs. None of this alcohol is mine. And so they're thinking that I'm like trying to throw them under the bus, but I'm just so out of it I don't understand like that we're in some kind of trouble because I think that she's here to help me. Thankfully, my girlfriend shows up. Apparently she was looking for me. She was out with the flashlight and she's like, oh my goodness, there you are. I didn't even get a chance to say thank you to them. They were furious. I mean, they each got fined $100 for helping a stranger who was tripping out. If by the rare chance, I don't remember your names, you guys are watching this video, thank you for helping me. I really did appreciate it. I would love to cover your $100 fines for you. I don't know, just send me an email. So my girlfriend grabs me and we head back to the campsite. And for some reason, as soon as I saw her, I completely sobered up. It was like my trip completely ended and I was back. And I went straight to sleep. Mixing these 2 substances should only be reserved for those who are extremely experienced with the effects of weed. Because what things like LSD do is they're mood enhancers. They enhance how you currently feel. And cannabis has the potential for a lot of people to put them in sometimes paranoid states. So say now you're smoking weed on the come up and you get a very slight amount of paranoia that you'd normally just be able to ignore. But because you're on the LSD as well, which enhances how you feel, it can just make that paranoia get infinitely multiplied to the point where you just start freaking the fuck out. Anyway, that concludes my story. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to my channel for weekly psychedelic related content. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like. And I have to say a massive thank you to all of my supporters who are pledging to me on Patreon. You guys are all amazing, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for your continued support, so thank you everyone. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Till next time, take care, be safe, and yeah, see you guys later.